other people in the community, things like, 3 people should affect our entire board, and we've been sitting on it for years, and it's been this way.
Well, let's not start the meeting. Call this meeting of the planning board to order. If everyone will please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, July 7th, 2022. I don't believe we have those yet, so we'll defer those to a future meeting. We'll move on to the September 15th, 2022 minutes. Do we have any comments or revisions? Comments. In that case, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 15th, 2022 as written and provided? Marty, second by?
I'll say.
Diana, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. Project being Orange County Gospel Fellowship. Sean, can you fill us in, please, on the status of the project?
Sure. So I contacted the applicant today or yesterday to see whether they were ready to submit a plan for return signature, and we are still working through department approval. They were planning on making a resubmission this week, so it's going to be some time before they can get it from the public. For emails.
Comments? Concerns? Maybe Kelly? I have a motion to extend their additional approval until April 5th, 2023. Jeremy, second by? Diana, all in favor, say aye. Against? Next item on the agenda. The 6 Murabito Place, 14-27-1. We have an application for a site plan approval for a single-family dwelling on 2.4 plus or minus acres on Murabito Place in the RU zone with an AP3 and stream corridor and reservoir watershed overlays. We're here today to hear about the project and to hold a public hearing. First off, do we have anyone from the public here for this project? Okay, let's see what happens. If you'd like to come on up, please, as an applicant. You're the applicant, right? You could just introduce yourself for the record. And perhaps you, for those of the public that may be interested in this project, and for the board here, please give us a real quick summary of what's being proposed, what's on the site now, what's going to be on the site.
It's actually right now a single house net, so kind of flexible. Oh, bedrooms as right now, that's 2 bedrooms. Basically, that's why. That's why.
Overlay district, yes.
Sure. So this was left for you on August 18th. At that time, the applicant made an initial presentation to state a public hearing this evening. You also determined this to be type 2 action for the procedure. The applicant indicated since this is in the reservoir overlay district and it's rated 500 square feet, it requires site plan approval. Typically, it will not in the overlay district. Single family dwelling would just be permitted to the department. You had requested that this be referred to Village Ocean because it affects their reservoir and they go back, that's where they have no objection. Otherwise, it's just listed for public.
I just have a picture. Sorry. Comments from the board?
I don't know if you got any, my recollection is the only thing that was sticky other than that water reach was the steps were like 2 feet into the setback. Has that been resolved?
The applicant actually submitted revised plans, but keeping with your policy, I think we can distribute them because if you had scheduled for it there on this site plan, it may also be. But yes, I pointed that out, because that will be a condition of resolution.
We're not going to need to have this thing. No. Just- that's gonna be a lunch. Probably just that.
So I have a couple of questions. You see on the plans, it's on the revised plan. As far as when areas here, as far as where the topsoil is restored, how it's being protected, as far as the protection of the reservoir. The site distance from the driveway looking southwest of Murabito, is that?
Mr. Chairman, I had requested my good contact.
You know, if that was something you would-
I do not recall that.
I guess I have a number of comments that are on your notes. I'm not going to repeat those. There were notes on sheet 4 regarding Orange County Department of Health approval. Notes L&M, for instance. Now, you're not going before the county for this. It's going to be a town review, so those notes should be removed. You have to remove them. Then the test holes for the sewage disposal system are both listed as test hole number 1 on the plans. Should be 1 and 2. And then the detest data we have in the engineer's report should also be on the plans. So it's in place. That's all I have.
I just had a concern that you just addressed about the possible need for variance, but I guess we just because setback. I guess one of our concerns was the village water supply, but so the letter that the village supplied the concern. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't have any further concerns.
I have one more. This is for you, Sean. In your response letter. Yeah. It says here, we recommend. You recommend you confirm with the building inspector, Mr. Leva, that since the proposed development, 1 dwelling on 2.376 acres is less than the maximum allowable density of 2 acres per dwelling. Well testing is not required. Am I reading it backwards? No. I mean, don't we have to at least have 3 acres in order not to do well testing? If it's 3 acres only?
Not necessarily, you would require well testing. The code actually contradicts itself and says that subdivision less than 4 lots, you don't require well testing. This is a subdivision, so I don't know where it's trigger, but it doesn't mean that that's the requirement. But it's an existing lot that has.
Or we're upsizing it to 2 bedrooms? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I think it doesn't need to be a separate item, it can be incorporated in the resolution. On board acts on it, that it's either existing.
I have a question.
Wait till we open up the public hearing,
All right.
and then by all means. Other comments from the board? In that case, can I have a motion then to open the public hearing? Jeremy, second by Diana. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yes. Okay. Now, public hearing is open. You're
I'm
welcome to
curious about, they're not gonna be doing any filling in the wetlands, right? It's a very swampy lot.
Could you just introduce yourself for the record?
Yeah, I'm Ken Mayer. I live in the house right behind the dwelling, or the front of the dwelling, actually. But, everybody in the neighborhood's had problems with their wells over the years, except for me, and I don't see this guy filling in wetlands, and all of a sudden my well drying up.
No wetlands to be filled in.
All right,
It's not part of the project.
that's my main concern.
Yeah, no problem at all. That's why we have a public hearing. Any other comments from the public?
Just out of curiosity, where you putting the house in the same spot the other one, or are you putting it more in the?
Basically, just a little bit. Also, towards the road.
Would you like to come up and see the plan?
Sure.
Just sure, like I said, my main concern was the wetlands, because you see it's a swampy lot. So if you build a big house and try to put it back, you have to fill in. Right. But still on the road, so, all right. So when you try to move it back to that big monster, you have to bring up the elevation 20, 30 feet. All right. My main concern is the wetlands. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other comments? That trigger any other comments from the board? I have a motion then to close the public hearing. Marty, second by? Diana, all in favor, say aye. Against? Public hearing is closed. Kelly?
So you've already declared this as a type 2 action under secret, so there's nothing further to be done. This was referred to the county and it's been more than 30 days. However, we still haven't received any comments back. It does mean you have jurisdiction to act. I went over my notes prior to tonight to see if a resolution was authorized in the last meeting, but it hasn't. So there's.
Does that come along with the revised plans?
We would analyze the revised plan.
For consistency. Can I have said motion? Diana, second one. Marty, all in favor, say aye. Against? Put together a resolution. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda. Orange and Rockland Utilities Incorporated, 8-1-13. An application for an amended site plan and special permit for training center on Old Chester Road in the RDU district with an AQ6 and scenic road corridor overlays. And we have before us tonight a draft resolution. I believe it's our third resolution.
It is your third amended resolution. I've spoken with Eleanor and regarding your condition that you required a conservation easement, subject to the Public Service Commission's approval. The Public Service Commission basically said no, but they would sell that to the town. Eleanor is willing to put on a restriction. It's just not a conservation, so it's a different process. So they asked for that condition. So I provided you with a red line, third amended resolution of conditional approval, noting what the change was on the first page, on the 6th page, stating what the second amended approval was for procedural history, and then modifying specific condition 3, which says, except for ordinary maintenance, safety and security, the applicant shall revise the plans to show a no disturbance area over the 50-foot wide buffer along the rear of the property, prohibiting any disturbance, including vegetative clearing, unless expressly noted herein. This shall also be noted as such on the plan with the additional language that the land may not be used for storage, dumping of refuse, junk, or other offensive or hazardous material. The rest of the conditions are carried over from that prior resolution.
On page 6, planning board reaffirmed its secret negative declaration on September 15th. Is that correct?
That's the good. So that would have to be modified reaffirm the secret negative declaration, number 6.
So,
I don't know if anybody has any questions, if not.
I'm gonna recuse myself, kind of thing.
comments? Diane, second that? Jeremy, all in favor, say aye. Against?
Thank you very much.
Resolution, 35.
They hope so.
Next item on the agenda. Golden State Inn, Primrose Realty LLC, 12-1-56, an application for a site plan and special permit for lodging facility on 8.6 plus or minus acres along New York State Route 17N in HC and CO zones with an AQ6 overlay. Tonight we have revised plans, secret EAF part 2, and the water testing protocol. Discuss. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mike Murabito, the project engineer. This application, before I get started, I just like to offer also.
Thank you.
Side note, first job, not attorney. I went to find out the cousin of my wife went to high school, and Dave actually designed my house. I got my own license, so I knew Dave pretty well. He was a very good guy. So having said that, I also have with me tonight, Stash Carlton, who's related to my this project architect. I'd actually like to start off with Stash. On the plans, I think, that we comments more so what they see and questions that more they have. That's still kind of conversation we're having, and then I'll jump in over the cycle.
Good evening, everyone. Sebastian Paulson. Yeah. So I guess we continue the conversation on last time. I think the board had some concerns about the style, the way of design. Kind of some of the suggestions from the public building. We addressed all the concerns they get. There were some questions, I think, based on comments that we've seen on the response. Slope of the roof. There's one thing I wanted to address as far as the canopies at the front. Of course. Of course it's we were just talking about when you have the 3 o'clock nights. I think that's the point where you start fading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So there was a question about the canopies in the front, whether these are canopies. I don't know if the board can see it. But these really aren't roofs. It's more like a wall treatment. Front, which is this way, so it's not really. But it's still on. Front. There was also a question about.
So, I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but so the first and second floor, it's on the same vertical plane? The windows above the doors on each of those, where the windows?
So this entryway right here, this is the balcony, just kind of sits right on top of the. So it's flat. The porch is being set on top of that. We were, it's treated with some like trim in front, so we put the treatment with it.
So does that extend out beyond the?
No,
fence?
it's pretty much like 4 inches.
Okay.
So, if you guys have any questions, you guys have the full plans, like, and then back up, show what we did with the.
As an engineer's architect, this is time for a change.
Yeah, there we go. So this was pretty much the area in question. What we did is we have all the 1 bedrooms on the first floor, which also fulfill ADA requirement. And then on the second floor, we have some 3 bedrooms, but also we'll make it more like a conventional with bedrooms. And both. That was for the architectural side.
Just told us something different. The way it was set up before, you had the bedrooms above the living space down below.
Yeah, so there's still the rest of it is still set up that
That's
way.
still the same setup,
Yes, but
And that was a bed.
Diana commented like
just for the.
maybe make some of them look more conventional, so we did this whole wing.
One section.
Yes, this whole section.
One of the other questions that come up was with the pool. The pool chemicals, fire suppression, the tank for fire suppression, where's all that going to be? With respect to the hotel?
We have a fire sprinkler room that we identified in the plan. Right here.
And how does that tank get filled? I mean, how do you gain access to that tank as far as replenishing the water supply?
I mean, like how they access.
Well, maybe there's no roadways as far as, bringing a truck or anything.
Well, there's parking all the way around the building,
Right,
so it would access it from that side of the
the hallway, the little roses in there. Is that the plan?
Are you talking about in terms of acreage for the?
Well, like for instance, the sprinkler, the tank for the sprinkler, I'm sure you're gonna have a storage tank. to draw from.
No, we haven't quite, I think,
I said, once you draw that down, say you had a fire, or they would go walk the sprinklers, you fill the tank.
Understood. So we'll need to coordinate that, so. Well, for all that, have that portion, but then starting at the well, that nature yet. I think it's a little bit further down the road.
Now, that's, just thinking in terms of the layout of the footprint.
Yeah, then we'll need to.
Then the other thing, talking 30 units, 60 bedrooms. In other locations, we had 33 units.
There's,
Which is,
yeah, and we're in the architectural favor. So I'm gonna mention it to myself.
which is 33 units now? Or the other, which is the one that's now the,
So we have 7 1-bedrooms. We have 4 3-bedrooms. We have 22 2-bedrooms.
not doing that in my head. but
So-
33, that's 33.
That's 33.
63 bedrooms.
So do we have to modify our parking and water
Correct, there's 3 more. parking.
demands and everything like that as well? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, the data I discussed, very good members, archaeologists, before testing protocols, for you. So, when this was last discussed, there were some questions about the use. Project facility permitted under their code, site plan special permit. However, because of the uniqueness of this proposal, we question whether this was a logical facility. Form needs to be a non-transient use. So the applicant note on the plan that transient use will coincide with the building code. I think what we're suggesting is the maximum length of stay is 30 days.
Correct, and that's, I mean, that's enforceable based on parking. If it's was an extended stay, parking, so it's a enforceable basis.
So I think one of the primary things the applicants would see is confirmation that they should receive back extension of the lot. So, since this was very focused submission on that aspect, all other aspects relative to programs, my approach to the review is a little bit different. What I did in this case, and I think also did this in the next application, I've identified areas that have changed. I didn't want my previous comments to kind of be forgotten here, so I just included them for future benefit of the applicant. So it really is anything substantial from an engineering standpoint as was described. They haven't provided site plan. Other than we now understand that the DOT permit was necessary, so I believe they. I don't know.
I have not, and 30 days have not passed.
So I tell you, what you or two. I'm going to turn over to Kelsey's protocols. I think that's the other item that you're trying to square away. But keep in mind with water testing protocols, the items that all needs to be reconciled with the water testing protocols.
So it's my understanding that the water demands were revised due to the as so we don't see any issues with no irrigation proposed for landscaping, the 6.7 gallons per minute. Applicant should confirm no on-site laundry services will be provided. That's an additional water use put into the water budget.
You actually have a long.
Yeah, we do have a long period funds for facilities.
For lands.
Yeah.
But that would also be obviously be incorporated as a water demand. It was not. So, again, your use a little unique. I don't know if you're going to find something in publication that says what the demand is going to be. So if you can't find that, you're going to have to find out to a similar facility, provide you some sort of engineering justification for the water demand.
The next point we want to point out is the estimated recharge charge for the water and aquifer, given the soil line. The applicant indicate the upland area that was utilized calculated this area with the recharge. However, the upland area is not owned by the applicant. Additionally, the applicant should verify the recharge rate given the same topography.
No, this is similar to the situation that you've encountered on the adjacent Tivoli application. The applicant's initial calculations just for the site indicate that they don't have sufficient recharge on site. So now they indicate that they're going to use the neighboring parcel for recharge, which is under their control. They can certainly be developed in some later date. That's right. So the way we addressed this with the adjacent property was there's no requirement the applicant to demonstrate they recharge before they do the well testing. Proceeding to do well testing. However, it's going to be proceeding and on the rest. So if there is a problem with long-term stabilization of the well yield, they'll have to charge. So we'll be addressing the final problem for it.
I did have a few comments on the well testing protocol. I don't know if it's normal to be in there, but as far as the various water parameters that need to be tested for, it's going to be a regulated public water supply.
I think the town code just says that for the protocol standards.
So that's, you know,
Yeah.
6.2, monitor relevant external influences. Says the WSP will not attempt to quantify, which makes sense. 6.3, it says that they'll start a minimum of 48 hours prior to the start of the test and collect at a minimum of 1 hour. Should that say maximum 1 hour?
Yes, I think the language in the protocol is, but I understand. They can't go 2 hours.
Right.
So, yeah.
And the way it's worded, it sounds like they can.
Yeah, I
In
think
a
they
couple
just-
locations, it says
I
that.
think they just copy the language in the protocol. Yeah.
The question I had, it says that they'll collect manual measurements during daylight hours in sufficient quantity. I mean, at nighttime, wouldn't that be a more relevant time to collect them? As far as, there's less water usage than the other off-site wells.
My recollection is that it's from water. I don't recall their hourly.
So where they're calling for daylight hours only, it doesn't flow.
That's correct.
That's all. Other comments from the board?
I had, in reading the consultant's report, I had the same concern that you have, the size of the lot is 8.61 acres, but with the figure you're using for the recharge is 35.7 acres, which you don't have control over that. So I would just be concerned, as was mentioned earlier, if that gets further developed, that recharge capacity goes down. And there was mention of and that's the wastewater treatment plant is going to feed into an existing stream creek, which is going to go downhill to Tivoli. But it was mentioned that the stormwater retention on a site might be an advantage to recharging this particular piece of property. I don't know if that has been addressed.
So as it relates to stormwater, all we have shown is constantly, through the boards, equal time, will be taking the rest of the plan. So the next step is to go out and soil test it for stormwater facilities. Once I know what type of soils we have there, I'll be able to determine significant infiltration practice. Infiltration practice will allow us to recharge some of that water back into the groundwater supply. That's dependent on the type of soils we have. So it's too early to say that's a potential. That's not an option or other things. Certainly, but requirements are, but we just feel that unfortunately. Charge for infiltration. Hopefully, we'll do something.
Understood that. That's all I have at this point.
Concerned about water, would you recharge value or not? You have Milmar across the street from you there, truck water in every day. And you're gonna have Tivoli next door that's got 74 apartments and all the office buildings downstairs. And you're on the top and, there's no water in that area. So I want to recommend town board that we do a study for that, see how much water they really get, like 300,000 square foot warehouse going in down the street, got all the other buildings, you've got the developments behind you guys. Where's the water coming from? This summer we had a drought where I have something like 75 houses put on a hill above my property, and my well almost went dry. So, and I'm only a mile away from it. So my biggest concern is water.
If I could just piggyback on that for a second. Before Neil left, he gave us a study that the town did back in 2002. Yes, but it didn't come with a map to show the watershed ID regions. I don't know if any of those exist. But we could take a look at where these projects are and maybe have a better idea of how much capacity they still have. I don't know if the town has a map of the watershed IDs.
I don't want to seem negative, but you're on the mountain, you're on a hill, you're going to be coming out at 7 p.m. That's ridiculously busy. And it's some problem. So what do you do?
So do you like?
I'm still trying to figure out where that.
So sorry.
Absolutely.
So we allowed Tivoli to use our well onto the property.
That they have not yet performed their testing out. They got some minor comments. I would expect them to address those shortly and expect to test within a matter of weeks.
And I think it's- that's it. Let's go do the test. Test hopefully very decent. I do. I highly doubt that it's replenished. So, I mean, we're pretty much prepared to go well and start testing. So, that is-
So as far as secret shows correct.
Two quick questions. One is, and I understand that you're updating the floor plan, but the way it's configured now, looks like there are 3 4-bedroom units. And that's not what is in the table on the floor plan, so as long as those 2 things match.
Yeah, I think that the unit table on architectural things is the updated also.
Yeah, it appears there's a, there are 4 units. And the only other question I had was, do you know what the square footage is of this dining room? And I'll tell you what I asked. I noticed that it was in the water study, or what we have so far in the water consumption. So it's accounted for there. We're supporting ourselves into excluding it for parking purposes, but I don't feel like it's an add up.
No, I do. There's room on the site we have.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that much, depending on what the answer is,
But
but
it's 3 parking spaces. It's revised plan shows, so I think,
because in the narrative, it makes this kind of big deal about how we prevent people from using the dining room if they're not guests, which is unenforceable.
Well, I can add parking, I don't know how much.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we can look into that. I did see that comment. We'll see what we provide. For lack of a better describing.
So,
In terms of parking space for everybody, all parking space, 21, 10.
the common
Common parking spaces, given the size of that group.
Yeah,
Plenty of room in the back of the site. I think they have about 5 spaces shown, like roughly centered in the site. Probably adding another 10 spaces back there. So the point being is that I was trying to minimize the impervious surfaces. But if it's warranted to make sure we have enough parking. I could pretty much extend the whole of the building.
yeah, no,
And we have more than adequate parking.
and I don't know if everybody agrees with this point of view, but suggesting that we're going to limit this room to only guests in the hotel, like it's not.
Not become visible.
Yeah.
Somebody with the hotel.
It's just as easy for me to add parking spaces.
That's all.
So as far as secret, as Sean mentioned, the DOT is now an involved agency, so I have sent a supplemental lead agency notice to them. If you recall, the original just went out, 30 days have not yet passed, so I would recommend not reviewing the part two. until that is passed, making sure the challenge and retention is. I did provide you with the amended part two as vetted as requested. But I was looking.
You just want to confirm that this is allowed, so that's one of the items.
I got the nod from our building
Yeah,
inspector.
I agree. I spoke to David. Namaco. Oh, correct. In the building code, lodging is specified with a 30-day period. It's in the New York State 2020 building code. If you could point a piece of data for this. So I'm in agreement with that.
Thanks, Frank.
So I think the next thing is when they return back, come back with a revised board testing protocol that incorporates all these comments and incorporates the advisory council. So then that's when we look at security.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Yeah, Carol. Yeah, that's fine.
Like, what do you need that?
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to-
Okay. Next item on the agenda. 0110, the Titan Foundation Regenerative Fund, 8-1-6. We have an application for a site plan and special permit for conversion of an existing barn to restaurant and retail farm stand on 14.5 plus or minus acres along Coleman Road and Craigville Road, otherwise known as County Route 66, in the RU zone with an 826 overlay. Tonight we have revised plans, water testing protocol, and possibly schedule a public hearing. Welcome.
Dave Higgins, we want to tell you the rules today. Would you like you to run down what we've done since the last meeting?
Please do.
Okay, sure. So the last meeting, I think the main request was that we provide as part of the zoning analysis associated with the special use permit application, and we needed to compare the impacts, specifically roads and traffic, with the proposed application with the use that is demanded right in Southern County Code. Originally, we had done an agricultural use and decided that we should instead use a municipal building. So what we submitted was a plan for municipal building and zoning analysis that we did associated with that traffic. So
How did you come up with the 19,600 square feet as opposed?
just pick something that would fit in there. I think.
Very useful analysis.
Pick the spot and said, you can put a building there.
Okay, because I'm going to some impacts.
Yeah. I mean, we probably could be larger, I guess. Relatively fit in kind of a.
So,
So that's sort of the open field area, and if we put it in there, yes, we could. And basically, that would be the municipal law. Right. But again, we could be larger, I guess. So anyway, yeah, we provided the traffic analysis for post use and for the municipal building. Noise, impacts, odor, landscaping plan providing for the farm and the restaurant. I don't think we had any adverse impacts. Anywhere we can see with it. We did make some other changes, in landscaping. The last meeting, we talked about basically beefing up some of the landscaping in here and here. Originally, we had a single row of trees here, and we had some trees in here. Took the trees here, pushed them down the hill slightly, and then we interspersed basically a pretty, solid hedge of boxwoods and then silver linden trees spaced in between, so that that would actually provide some shade for parking areas. The hedge would provide a nice buffer so that you won't see the vehicle headlights from the property, the residential property down here. And then we also doubled up the landscaping in here, interspersing evergreens with deciduous trees. And that's not to mention, there's also plantings of trees that are going in these areas in here. Things that might be trimmed and clipped and whatnot. So we have really this area and this area is our main buffer.
So with the boxwoods that are being proposed, well, they would be put in every 5 feet, they grow pretty much 5 or 6 feet tall, 5 feet wide. Was the intent that that would fill it in without needing the permit?
Yes.
No,
I
serve the
think,
purpose.
yeah, I think between the deciduous trees here and the evergreens interspersed, and then you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 deciduous trees here. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees first here, and then the hedge over there.
Can you speak on the distillery?
So I provided some additional information in the package that you have. Basically, if you remember the last meeting, what the applicant had said was it was 8 gallons still. The attorney that's working with her, that is applying for a permit from tobacco. Yeah. TTP, I'm sorry. Bureau. I'm sorry, Bureau. Bureau, TTP. And the New York State Liquor Authority. So they do need to get permits for those 2 agencies. They do not need a permit from ag markets for that. It's an agricultural distillery. There's a limit on what they can produce. Yeah. And the actual water that's going to be used, it's going to vary depending on what it is they're making. What they're distilling. Some require a little more than others. We know, I believe that in the hydrogeologic test report plan that Tom Cusack provided for today story. That is well more than enough than we need. I think you just more conservative. You just didn't want to be low in that, run the test, and then find out as we go along the line, you were short on the testing program. You wanted to do well testing. I'll confirm the numbers that should be the entire project. That's more than enough for this testing.
Over along the well test, speaking of that, the well's now located 100 feet. It was further away.
It was, yeah, originally,
It's going to be a regulated water supply. Why are we putting it where it is not back further back up away from the development?
it still meets the separation requirements. We have moved it. We originally had it basically behind the shed here, right about here, I would say. When we staked that out, the applicant was concerned that well, basically we can do it.
Was the location of the required?
Yes, we had submitted that to the CompuSec, submitted that to Steve Gagnon for review.
The old location or the new location?
Both locations. And we were accepted by Steve.
In other words, I'm looking at, like shed that's there, for instance, is within that zone. I know we just, on the county side, just told another project, they had to get rid of the shed, they just put a note on the plans restricting use.
Oh,
They had to physically take it out, because there's no way to regulate when, enforce what actually goes in the shed, you know, subsequently, once it's approved. in operation.
If that's required, maybe we'll address it that way, but I know that Steve, when he had to do it, said we would have to not allow any storage of any hazardous waste, any manure, or anything, fertilizers, et cetera.
So this is a John.
So we had to go into the plan, and I thought that that was all that we needed. I know she wants to keep the barn. I know she's,
Sure.
I'm sorry, the shed, and not going to be storing it, because that would be a problem. But again, that's how we believe it was acceptable.
Parking as well. Part of the driveway extends up towards the side.
Yeah, I think
So
it's even,
everything was approved by Steve.
he had the map, I think, twice, said that, Steve, Tom Cusack said that. Steve, and they had drilled the well already, actually, down. They drilled it.
Sure.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So this was also 48 unit, we had a distillery came up with a request additional. So if that is considered by this board, building inspector, the agricultural use, it's permitted to proceed. I recognize that the applicant has, will be producing 58 gallons of alcohol in 15 days. Just recognize that they have 400 gallons a day allowance in the well testing program. But frankly, I have no experience with distilleries or water demand they have in terms of production water, processed water, closed down water. And I would really strongly recommend we get something to file that justifies that. You know, the applicant could be very conservative, but without the lack of something, it's not like a residential use where the public bag is readily available. It's truly. So I feel a little more comfortable with that. And at that meeting in June, you had indicated that once the applicant submits to the story information, that might be referred to the manager's office. So I think we're pretty much on the cusp of being there, but once we get that additional backup information, we'll send it on the bill.
Yeah, two, I think, easy questions. One's distillery, one's ethics. So, in one of the letters, let me correct one with the narrative. It said that the license has the potential to produce 75,000 gallons a year of product.
I think I know what you're asking, because I had the same question. So they need two things, they need a permit from TTD, and then they need 2 licenses from New York State Liquor Authority. So the permit restricts them to 58 gallons for 50-day period, with the license, the smallest volume they do is 75,000 gallons.
Right, the maximum for its license.
Yeah.
So my question is, in the event that we wanted to go from 58 to whatever can get you to 75,000 a year, I think that that's something that we'd be interested in limiting. Like obviously 58 sounds like 400 gallons of water, that's what we're assuming, but if all wants to go to the maximum allowed with that permit, what recourse do we have to manage?
If you want to, you could include a condition in the resolution that if you wanted to increase anything beyond that, they have to come back to the board. I presume that they need to make some modifications to one of the corners or area dedicated to the distillery. So if they're making modifications, they can approve the permit. Back to you guys.
So maybe, I don't know if us limiting it to the 58 per 15 days is too limiting. And you want to think a little larger than that before you have to come back to us for permission to do more. But that seems like it's something that you guys can make. So that was one question. And the other question is the hedgerow, the boxwoods that are blocking the headlights, property next door. Like, can can we assume, I know we're talking about the go in and stuff like that. I'm certain that the neighbors are interested in the big effect immediately. What can we do to make sure that that sort of rectifies their concerns?
Well, I mean, boxes are evergreens. So
Well, how
they
big
will-
are, the evergreens? Are they gonna be like this or are they gonna be like that?
We'll see what we had in the plan. Sizing, maybe the bump up the sizing and plantings is necessary. But, if I have 3-gallon containers. Winter gem box with 2-gallon containers.
So it's gonna take a little while.
It's gonna take them a long time to get to.
Yeah, I think that might be an unreasonable expectation that the neighbors have to live with, you know, the time it takes plants to grow. And it should be resolved quickly rather than waiting that long. But I mean, I think that's, I know we're talking to people who are experts in plants and I think this is something that can be resolved pretty easily.
In terms of what? Increasing the size or? How would you like to see it?
I would like to see you by doing whatever is necessary to ensure that headlights don't unreasonably project to the neighboring property. If you want more plants, if you want bigger plants, like I feel like that's a decision that's not mine to make. But I welcome your solution. Just get some solution.
Well, possibly go with more plants. And just, you haven't having 2 rows and staggering in between. Rather than having to find that part.
But they're still gonna be small. I think there should be a berm and those on top of it. There should be something. This is no guarantee they're gonna grow. Sometimes they do.
We could use different plants like, arborvitaes or yew trees that are, you know, they're more vertical. Unless, that likes to only be about
Plus,
2
the thing,
feet above.
you want to screen the headlights. either way.
Yeah, the concern is the headlights, it's only, you know, a couple of feet above the parking lot.
And the parking is aiming down. Is that
He's sloping slightly.
towards the neighbor's property?
We should look at the topo lines between the parking lot and the neighbor's property, because that is a southern facing slope. So the parking lot is here, the neighbor's property is on the bottom of the slope here. So the headlights aren't doing this, the headlights are doing this. But I'm happy to put bigger plants, I'm happy to, I mean, if you would rather, I know we put in a big request for just to see the pricing for solar panels on top of one of the sheds. I'm happy to, like, we could put solar panels like full on solar panels along where the parking lot would be, and that's solid if you prefer that. I'm happy to not get the 2-gallon tubs, which the 2-gallon tub is like this. So the boxwood is quite a bit bigger. I'm happy to get bigger ones if you want to put that as a note. You tell me. I just want to do it. You tell me. Yeah.
Please.
I don't know who the question should be referenced to. When you're last before the board, one of the board members was not here to specifically request the berm. And the plan came back with small plantings without a berm. And it seems like you've heard the word berm a couple times. You're avoiding it too. Is there a reason why? Because
We would go over an acre of disturbance. And as soon as you do that, then you are subject to additional storm requirements. We probably want to have you take large chunks of the land and put stormwater management there. And that 1 acre threshold, you would say, berm, would require additional service. I think we can do the blocking the glare of the parking with what we provided. If you want different shrubs, if you want more density planted, you want higher, we can do that. That's the concern. I'm sure we can deal with the glare.
The ultimate goal is obviously to create a screen and not wait 5 years for.
Yeah, we could put up a fence, we could put up a, wooden fence. Well, the berm creates other issues.
To the applicant's point, do we know what the elevation difference is from the parking lot to the property line? Because I think it was fairly significant.
So down by the property line, looks like your elevation is roughly about 370, 372. And at the parking lot, it's 396.
It's quite a bit different.
So the parking lot is 25 feet above.
Yeah.
Much higher.
So it's higher than their house.
Wait,
So the lights are not shining in their house.
it's about 25 feet above the grade of the neighbor's house? Oh, how high is the house? Wait, it could be, if it's a two-story house.
25 feet, maybe.
Yeah, it could be right to their bedroom windows, that's.
But that's why we haven't ignored the issue. Provide for, the landscaping there to buffer that. Block that. That's what we do.
And listen, I'm trying to give you the greatest, galaxy of options to solve it. It's with preferences, but has to be solved. But I don't think that the fence is a terrible idea until the plantings grow in.
But you can do that. But I mean, like I said, berm is a problem. That puts us over.
The berms is just, that was just an option.
We could be conserving probably an acre and a half by the time we be done with this one.
That was proposed as an option just to elevate the vegetation.
So, I mean, again, if it's, you want to be sure that you're not going to see the wooden fence right along the perimeter until those shrubs grow. I assume that the applicant would like people to be able to look down the fields and see everything here. Right? Parking and looking at a wooden fence is exactly ideal for the applicant, which is the biggest problem. The other thing we could do is, like I said, change the landscaping, put yew trees in here, yew shrubs, or arborvitae. Put it a little more densely, and put notes on the plan that say that, if it's determined that something that's a little more vertical than ground to block the glare.
The applicant said that she was, their larger body that all your issues. Obviously, I'm not alone.
It's going to depend on the size and also the orientation. So you don't have voids. No matter how big they are, you're spacing them out so you can grow into each other.
Yeah, it would generally be solid.
You have to
within a
start
few
eventually, but initially they won't be. That's the concern.
I mean, that's the goal is to provide that area, and that's why we said we didn't just do that. We have that and trees here and 2 layers of trees here, some of which are evergreens. So we are going to block that without the problem.
But the lower trees on the property line themselves, there's such an elevation. They're not.
They might help the driveway or somebody else first. They're not doing nothing.
I mean, I can make these evergreens too, if that, if you want to swap those deciduous trees that are up there. But again, my thought in doing this was if you have the evergreens up here, then some of these overhang into the parking, like some shade in the summer, park under there, the pool. That's a nice thing to do for parking. We can certainly switch it out more evergreens.
Then the applicant, sorry, the board has identified a potential issue, and some of the applicants who address that. Heard that what's on the plan right now doesn't adequately address the concern. So
We put forward a couple of different options.
Well, I think the option.
Meaning on paper, or the rendering or something that shows a little bit more.
there is an elevation difference with the elevation of the neighbor cross section. Demonstrate that to the board. We'll say it's not, sometimes the headlights is not the direct feed to the house, there's glare issues as well. Sitting on your couch, you can see, it might not be shining into your window, but it can see that light through the darkness.
I just had a question. So just so I understand, when we make a decision together, you would be happy with a fence that blocks the headlights, that would block the headlights as the cars park this way? So,
Yeah, that's, I said, we're not looking for an 8-foot stockade fence.
okay, See
We're
what you
looking for
have
something
with
out
the
when those
lower-
cars are parked, and the angle where they end up, ultimately, the angle at the park that light is blocked.
Okay, that's pretty easy to do.
I mean, I'm thinking of if we had a temporary fence, because again, I think ultimately, she would like to be able to have cars look down into some of the areas here.
They won't be looking down too far, so it fills in where they want it to.
No, but I mean, it's different to be looking at landscaping as opposed to, here's just a wooden fence, you know. We'll look to see if we can do a temporary fence that can be placed, kept there for a few years, let that go in, and then when that is solid enough that there's a glare, if you want a time frame on that, do that, if you want an evaluation by building department, that it's sufficient to go in, do that too.
What do you think, Frank?
I'll take on responsibility.
We'll take that on.
That we can do. My hesitation is firm. What we could do, as soon as you go to the acre, you're looking at stormwater, all sorts of reserves, all drain. Again, you have to do, you're on the acre.
That's all I have.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. It's still a way, is there going to be a tasting room?
I think it's just in the restaurant, correct? Yeah. So you can sit down and have a meal and have a spirit.
You should have the lawyer look at sample tasting license. You know, that's one of the issues, you need a license for tasting. So if I came into your restaurant and said, well, I don't know if I like that bottle, can I try it? And it's an inspector somewhere in there, here's that, they may look at your license, just to let you know.
A lot. Yes. I provided the board with a revised, updated, draft negative declaration. I provided you with an updated, draft negative declaration based on the documents provided by the applicant. Anybody but we have any questions or comments? I provided the applicant with a copy of the results.
I defer the lead.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 2, impacts on surface water. Second line, this is the environmental assessment form concluding proposed action may require construction of a new or expansion of existing. I think it should say will require, because one or the other will be happening.
The form actually says may require. So I copied it.
You have to.
You know, I can change it, but for all of yours, I copy exactly what the form. Up to you if you want me to. I'll change it. Look, you got it.
I already addressed the other ones outside of the,
Marty, you got it?
Hey,
And,
do it.
I have headlights here, the vegetative screening, and I have 100-foot, 150-foot on the well, up on the shed. We already addressed that. So I just didn't know if it needed to be, 100-foot is actually the dimension we're using, 100-foot northwest. That's correct.
Thank
You
you
wanted it
for,
for
thank
150.
you for my memorandum. I just roughly scaled it off.
I'll add one of the impact on agricultural resources. The last line, saying, oh, there's some areas, parking lot, building structures that are not likely to be used again in the future for agricultural purposes because they were covered with impervious surfaces. Therefore, no significant adverse impacts on agricultural resources. That contradictory?
Well,
Can't
it
we-
depends on whether or
can't
not you think
reverse
there's significant.
as far as the size of the area, is that what we determine what it's significant?
Those
Yeah.
is
Because if it's not reversible,
more subjective than that. There's no set for footage or anything.
if you're happy, I'm happy. You're doing something.
want to relocate the last sentence. So I'm saying that there are no significant adverse impacts that are anticipated. However, noting that there are scenarios that are not likely to be significant, but not going to be significant. Well, you know what, then it was.
Go ahead. So, that being said, could I have a motion then to approve the next deck as prepared and modified this evening? Marty, second one. Diana, all in favor, say aye. Okay, let's, I think, go through this.
So, here, public hearing being scheduled until
As far as the water testing, pass that on.
I would pass on to it.
Would that hold up the public hearing?
No, there's no requirement. Sometimes you do work testing before, sometimes you do.
So we can schedule.
No permanent is asked if you do not schedule public hearing for the next meeting. So the earliest, you know, the first. They have comments that we can share, we want to have, they will handle it on the send that public hearing.
It's necessary.
Okay. That's fine.
Could I have a motion then to set the public hearing for November 3rd, 2022? Diana, second one.
Second.
Jeremy, all in favor, say aye. Against?
in terms of addressing the comments that we're talking about tonight, specifically. Landscaping, visual impact. Submission for that, we have time to submit that for that meeting, or should we bring it?
So the public hearing is set on the plans that they're looking at tonight. So we don't want any submission. However, if you do have potential ideas, it might be good to bring them in case the board wants to discuss them that evening, but don't make a submission prior to that.
All right, thank you all. Yeah.
Alex, thank you. You as well. Yes, you cannot run.
So do you do that?
During
Not either. Well, own it. If you didn't own it. Don't say it wasn't you.
So, you had, you were probably being brought in for a public hearing, or there was a snafu with the, state, so. The returns got over 20. The applicant subsequently submitted a revised package back on the top over there, that was fine. That meeting,
You
was
can
only,
keep it revised.
well, the revised plans, the only thing that you had asked me, two items. I will let us hear from Mark saying that for us to keep a copy of the map and the file, but the others we will have to file. Got that, and that's, so I think what we do is kind of put everything off to the side, you know, just accept it. Because the issue is always that the public had two sets of plans that they're looking at, they're always wanting the one count. So that's on for public hearing. Ocean Hospitality, know, the special meeting, they were unable to attend. That's not really point. But now it's been brought to the hospitality, FIS. Outdoors, landfills, come back.
And the Murabito.
Four items, Murabito, Vivian, hospitality.
There's like a-
No, definitely not. I actually, I spoke to him today about that. Perhaps Vivian.
But if you do have any additional comments on the FDIS and announcement, distributed so that they can be addressed, and we are working on red line version for everything. But me sending out a red line now doesn't make sense for me to do. Yeah, so, it would make double the effort pretty fast.
Your time.
You know, I spoke to them on Tuesday, and I said, wait until Goshen Hospitalities.
Yeah, so you're gonna have.
We have any tentative schedule for the meeting?
Oh, the third, perhaps already, yeah. All one all, and all the groups, so.
It's all in front of them.
Does anyone on the board have anything to say? Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, you're also not here, is there anything else that you want to do?
Yeah, 20th?
That's 20. If the jury comes back next week, please let us know. We have to spare this public hearing.
And cancel me.
just reschedule the vacation.
Where are you going?
Visit my grandchildren. City.
You're gonna make him cancel his vacation. Grandchildren. Well, it sounds like. he
Us
was-
engineers stick together.
That's right.
And here I'm trying to save. I'm just gonna tell Jerry.
Anything else on the board? If not, can I have a motion to close the meeting? Marty, second by. Diana, all in favor, say aye.